Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session. Please let us know where you're calling from today and what the weather looks like where you are.
Mhm.
We're going to start in about a minute just to make sure everyone has a chance to join. Very excited to have you. Let's see, what do we have? Woohoo! Lots of different places: Ottawa, Atlanta, New Jersey, San Francisco, Portugal, Texas, Vancouver, BC. I lived there for 10 years, so that's cool. Hello. Montenegro. Wow, all over the world. That's super cool to see. Halifax. Nice. Michigan. Excellent. So many people from the US and all over Europe. I hope the weather is good in most of the places and you're all enjoying some sunshine. Porto, Portugal. Lovely. Love the wine, Portuguese wine. New York, Kansas, Torino. Love it. Helsinki. Very nice. Excellent. I think we have quite a few people having joined. So, just in the interest of time, I think we should get going. So, welcome everyone. My name is Lilia Apostolova, and I'm leading brand and product marketing at Leapsome. And you are here to learn how bad bosses are made and how HR and people leaders can break that cycle. And a super warm welcome to our guest, Mita Malik. Mita is a Wall Street Journal and USA Today best-selling author, workplace strategist, LinkedIn top voice, and master storyteller. Welcome, Mita.
Lilia and team, thank you so much. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you all today.
Same here. I look forward to it a lot. So before we begin, just a quick note for everyone on housekeeping. Chat is open for the reactions. You can submit questions also anonymously. You can see a little tab that says Q&A via the Q&A box. And this webinar also qualifies for SHRM credits, and those codes will be sent to you by email as a follow-up. And also 200 lucky winners will be getting Mita's new book. She just showed us a copy of it. Very exciting. Mita, you can bring it up. That's it. Look at it. Very nice. And the winners, those 200 winners, will be revealed next week by email as well. So look out for an email on that. And so the first thing we want to start with is a poll. So have you ever sent or received a midnight email? And you can choose anything. You can choose both options. I send them, I receive them, or I don't do either of those things. And we can vote now and see the results. Gonna submit my vote and I can see them coming through. Many people are receiving those.
Love that. Wow. I selected both. I'm guilty. I've been the devil who emails at midnight. So I will confess.
Yeah, I've done that too, unfortunately. So I hear you. Lots of people are receiving those. I can see that the majority, some are sending, which makes sense, right? Mita, you and I discussed that.
Well, because like if I'm your boss and I send you the note at midnight and then you respond and then I respond, we're just creating a vicious cycle
Yeah,
of responding to each other after hours, very late hours, very late
very
hours.
late hours. Exactly. Cool. Yep. Many people on the receiving end, though.
I'm impressed by the 14%. Good boundaries. Good for you.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
Nice. Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. So, the subtitle of your book says, What Good Leaders Can Learn from Bad Bosses.
Yes.
Yes. When did you first realize you were that bad boss yourself?
Oh gosh. You know what I realized is people don't really teach you in organizations when you go from doing to directing for the first time. You're no longer doing things, you're trying to teach other people to do what you know how to do really well. And that was the first time I started really micromanaging. And I'll never forget, I was working with the team on a presentation, and my team said to me in a very nice way, they never said I was micromanaging, but they said things to me like, Can you explain why you changed the image of this slide? Can you explain why you changed the font on this slide? Can you explain why you changed the title on this slide? So what I was doing was I wasn't coaching or teaching. I was just redoing their work. And I think that's one of the things, as I've researched for The Devil Emails at Midnight, as I've done this work in so many organizations, it's a real struggle when you go from being an individual contributor to suddenly being responsible for other people's careers for the first time. It's not easy. It's not an easy moment in anyone's career.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear you. I had the same thing because no one teaches you, right? And you tend
Yes.
to follow whatever your boss
Yeah.
did, thinking this
Right.
is best practice, but it isn't. And you learn the hard way sometimes. So
Yes.
thank you for sharing
Me
that.
too.
Yeah. So with that, I think this is a really good segue into the first archetype. So the devil who emails at midnight. Talk us through the devil, Mita, and how we can mitigate.
I can't, not with these amazing images. I mean, I'm just going to watch these amazing images with Michael. So the devil emails at midnight. I mean, this was the boss. So the title itself gives everyone a visceral reaction. Either you've realized you've done that or you've been on the receiving end. And the devil emails at midnight opens up with, and I know, thank you so much for reading the book. You're one of like 15 people who've read it. So thank you for taking the time to do that. This boss never had time for me during the day. I would follow her around like a golden retriever. Like I was so desperate for her attention in the office. She never had time for me. But guess when she did have time? Between the hours of 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. to dump her inbox out. And I was so grateful for that time. Isn't that just so odd? Well, it's not, right? So I would respond. And so that's really it. It's like, do we make time for our teams or not? And I actually use the analogy of my wardrobe, right? I'm in this place where I'm constantly cleaning up my wardrobe. Do I need all these things? Why do I buy all this stuff? Right? It's the same thing with calendars. Why are you in these meetings? It's the fear of missing out versus, the joy of missing out. Are you delegating? Are you keeping things in the calendar that make no sense? Have you ever been in a meeting where everyone shows up and says, "What's this meeting for?"
Yeah.
Or it's the reoccurring meeting that we all just kind of show up for? Stop the nonsense. I promise you, you can find time to meet with your teams in person. And then, of course, we talk about good practices on how to communicate, right? You don't have to be emailing at midnight. You should be sleeping, right? We're not AI agents or bots. I'm not embarrassed to say I'm sleeping at midnight. Like I should be, right? But, unless you're a 911 operator, firefighter, emergency room medical professional, most of us aren't doing things that are life or death. Like I sold a lot of beauty products and I sold SaaS software, like not life or death. And so think about we're going to talk about urgency versus being important, but how are you communicating with your teams and what message are you sending by sending consistently emails at midnight?
That makes a lot of sense. And what is your 3-step boundary framework? I remember you having a really good articulate way of like how you measure that. How do you mitigate that?
Yeah, I mean, the first is, really look to understand, number one, audit your calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Free up time. We talked about that. It's like the wardrobe. Go through those meetings that you should not be in and take them off your calendar, whether you're the person managing your calendar or someone else is. Be ruthless about it. Number two, make sure that you are meeting with your teams on a regular basis, right? So number one, you freed up your calendar. Number two, don't cancel those check-ins, right?
Mm-hmm.
How often do we say, well, Mita, we talked about that last week, so we're just going to cancel the check-in for this week? Well, no, let's talk about other things. Maybe a little bit of personal. How are you? How was your weekend? How are things going? Let's talk about this other project. We haven't talked about this in a while. Let's talk about our planning for next year. Let's just connect on some bigger things. And so when you've done 1 and 2 and you consistently, number 2, check in with your team. Number 3, fend off and stay firm, meaning do not let other people take that time away. When you've said that you're no longer going to be in this meeting, don't get dragged back into it unless there's a purpose and objective, right? I think that's so important. So those are the 3 things I would focus on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, just even asking the meeting organizer, like, what's the goal of the meeting or how am I supporting you?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm not saying that means don't go to any meeting. Don't show up to any meetings. But to your point, why am I needed? What's the objective? If I'm not needed, can someone else go? Is there a delegate on my behalf? And if I am needed, then let me know why. And also, you don't need hour meetings. I'm a big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk. I used to be his client. If you follow him in social media, he talks about the 15-minute meeting, which kind of sounds wild. You can get things done in 15 minutes if you're really just using the meeting to get a decision, get input, review something quickly, you could do meetings in 15 minutes.
Yeah, 100% agree. So with that in mind, let's be practical. What meeting, this is for all of you, please type it in the chat. What meeting could disappear from your calendar tomorrow? And please add your reactions in the chat. Very curious to see. Utilizing stand-up
What a
meetings.
great questions. Yeah.
All of them.
All of them. I love that. Bi-weekly all hands. Yeah, I love that. See, that's a great example of a meeting that someone set up a year ago that's still on the calendar that people just show up for because no one has the courage to cancel it.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
Trauma meetings. Could be an email.
Weekly
In there.
is it email? Town halls. Oh, that's an interesting one.
One person
I
left.
love my meetings. That's great, Vanessa. I've already declined non-necessary ones. See, that's the spirit, isn't it? Wouldn't it be amazing if we get excited to go to meetings? That actually should be the case. Like, I'm excited to be here with you all today. I was excited this was on my calendar. Like, that's the energy we should have when we're in meetings.
100%. It makes a lot of sense. Thanks everyone for contributing. That really makes a lot of sense here. And so, like Mita, if you look at it from, because we have a lot of HR practitioners here, how can they help their managers model this boundary?
Love that. I mean, it's role modeling, right? So you're going to say specifically why. Don't do it quietly, right? Don't do it quietly. You're quietly removing these meetings from the calendar. You're going to say, no, actually, someone mentioned this. Like, this meeting is a biweekly meeting. It was started last year. I am removing this meeting. I am no longer attending. I'm asking for this meeting to be deleted. As someone else pointed out, multiple meetings discussing the same things over and over again. So I think you have to be clear. And I'm not saying don't go the extreme and get rid of every meeting, but to say, I looked you can do this in a weekly team meeting. I took a moment to look at my calendar and I noticed that these 3 meetings are still on the calendar and we don't need them anymore. So I'm asking for them to be removed and I'm asking for us to use that time to actually do work, right? So I'm not asking you to replace it. I'm asking you to meet with your team or do heads down work. And I think we have to role model that and show specifically we're doing it. It's the show, don't tell, right? Model that my 5th grade writing teacher taught me. Show, don't tell.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I just want to hear, can you hear me? Because I'm seeing some weird stuff.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Amazing. That's really good because my entire screen is kind of frozen. So
no, I can hear you. I can see you. Yep.
Okay, amazing. I cannot see any of the stuff. Super weird. But
Okay.
we'll just need to move forward with that.
Okay, we'll keep going. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
All good.
Perfect. And so I think we can move on a little bit to the micromanager boss. So we can drop another emoji. Please drop a stop sign if you have had a helicopter boss, and a green check mark if you were one. Let's see what's happening. Unfortunately, I can't see it, but hopefully, Mita, you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it. I'll watch for others. I was going to put a stop sign and a green check, but yes, there's stop signs. I see people typing. I've been both. I have been the recipient and I have been the helicopter. Oh, someone has a Maria. Look at that. Stop. Had both. I've been both. Yes. Thanks for that vulnerability and honesty. It's hard to say that you've been a micromanaging helicopter boss.
Yeah, for sure.
I have been both. Oh, I like this. I've been both. Learn to let go.
Yeah, it's a skill that you have to learn, right? Especially at the beginning when you're still getting started as a manager. I found that that's when you have this tendency, but with time you learn to trust and to start coaching and doing.
Someone just said that. I love that. Someone just put, I'm a helicopter boss until I let go in the beginning. So the trust piece. Yes.
Nice. Perfect. And could you talk to us about the helicopter boss a little bit more, and then the 3 self-check-in awareness prompts that you have for that?
Oh my God. The chopper. He loved redoing all of my work, loved redoing everyone's work. And so I always find this interesting, don't you? We hire people with such talent and expertise. And why do we redo their work? Why don't we let them do their work? And so there's nothing like micromanagement to kill the joy at work for me. Nothing like micromanagement. Because what starts to happen, as I talk about in The Devil Emails at Midnight, I'll never forget a colleague who was on this team with me at this time who said to me, "What's the point of even trying and doing this work? We know he's just going to redo it." Like, just think about that. So what happens with micromanaging, it starts to chip away at your sense of confidence and worth. Like, does it even matter that I'm here? Because they've hired me, but they don't really seem to care about what I'm doing. And then you start to be less productive. And then you start to be disengaged. And all of this will eventually lead to burnout over time. I mean, some bad boss behaviors lead to burnout quicker, but others, like micromanagement over time, you just seem very like, what's the point of even trying? Let him do it. Let him redo the proposal for the client. I don't need to be involved.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And also, unfortunately, you lose some great people, and their creativity really suffers when you do that. And then ultimately, they may decide to leave as well. So that's unfortunate. And if you were to kind of compare coaching versus micromanaging, how would you describe that in one sentence?
Oh, I love that. Coaching versus micromanaging. Coaching is teaching and training, and micromanaging is doing someone's work for them.
Yep.
Simple as that, that I do your work for you. I don't explain to you how to do it. I just, the worst micromanagers are the boss who emails you back the proposal having redone it, but there's no explanation.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just all redlined. You're like, what just happened here?
Yeah. 100%. Extremely demotivating. And unfortunately, this is very prevalent because according to one global study, half of the employees during the pandemic felt
Yes.
micromanaged.
Yep.
And that's why we want to see and hear from you with the poll, which hurts trust more? Is it constant check-ins? Is it redoing work like we just discussed? Or is it tracking your hours? And again, you can select multiple things.
Gosh, I might select all three. This is such a good poll. I'm selecting all three. Oh, I mean, the hour tracking one, wow. The coffee badging, as I'm sure you've heard that term, companies making sure that people are just, actually showing up live into the office and or monitoring them online. It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of it. I think all three hurt trust a
They
lot.
do. They
Yeah,
do. Uh,
it's
the constant check-ins as well is part of micromanaging because you are scared of what people are working on. You want to be in control. You need to constantly be updated, right? So you're constantly checking in without thinking what we talked about, like what are the good ways of setting a framework for your team on how to make sure you're all connected on the work you're doing. The worst is the boss who I'm sure many of you have experienced this is like the boss who calls and texts and leaves a Slack message and then we'll email. And then sometimes you get like a missed FaceTime audio. You're like, what is going on here? Like, I will get back to you. I'm in a meeting, right? But that sort of needing to check in to see what you're working on.
yeah, 100%. Thank you for that, Mita. And I think we're ready to move into the next archetype, which is one of my favorites, actually, the boss who cried wolf.
Oh, yes.
This is a interesting one with the White Rabbit Friday story that you have with the Alice in Wonderland kind of metaphor there. And it would be really cool to talk us through the White Rabbit Friday story, and then also your urgency rubric that you also have a really practical tip on how to.
Yeah. Listen, so for those who did not grow up with Alice in Wonderland is a famous childhood story I grew up with. And there's a character called the White Rabbit who's always like late, late, late. I'm always late, right? And runs around with this oversized clock. And that's where my nickname for that boss came from, the White Rabbit, where it was constant fire drill mode, constantly creating fake emergencies. Either she was creating them or she would be a bottleneck and sit on something. So let's say something was due this Friday, but she had found out 3 weeks ago. She'd tell us today. And then it's due tomorrow, something massive, right? And the story you reference in The Devil Emails at Midnight is in this story. So basically, she is the boss who cried wolf. And because everything is urgent, nothing becomes urgent. because you can't operate in an environment like that. So when she actually calls us together on a Friday afternoon for something that is urgent, something that the CEO has requested for, I'll never forget, half the people don't show up because they're tired of it, right? Like, is this real? Is this fake? And so the question is, like, how do you actually as a team think about, like, what is urgent versus important, right? How do you set up a framework, number 2, for thinking about, like, I always say if something's urgent, my team's going to get a phone call from me, right? I'm not going to connect with them 10 different ways, right? Having ways in which you communicate what is really urgent and what you want people to get done. And I think there's the last piece, number 3, which I know many of you are involved in given the markets, you're constantly reprioritizing and replanning. And that's just the way the world is, right? So something that was important suddenly becomes urgent. Something that maybe is urgent is now important. And so you have to constantly do that exercise as a team. And I think just remember this, I always forgot this, when I was early in my career, I thought bosses were, superhuman. They were like gods, right? That they knew everything, and bosses are human. They forget. So they might be forgetting that they're assigning all these things. And it's our jobs to be a mirror to say, wait, you just told me these 3 things were urgent this week, and now there's 3 more, and it's all due on Friday. And if you actually laid it out for the boss, they might say, oh my God, I didn't actually realize I sent you all of those things. Let's actually push 3 of those things back. And these 3 things are really due on Friday.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. This is something that my team always does with me, right? It's like, okay, now I have 7 things. Tell
Yeah.
me which one is driving the highest impact so I can
Yeah.
prioritize
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. So now in the chat, tell us about whether you're in a fire drill right now. You can drop a red siren if this is happening to you at this moment. And Mita, you have to tell me because I'm literally running blind here.
Oh, yes. I mean, not, I was going to say, I'm not going to put a siren in now because I'm here with all of you. So I'm not doing that. Totally in a fire drill, 100% constant. LOL, is it a day ending in Y? I recently escaped the white rabbit. Oh gosh. Once upon a time, still working on an issue from May 2025. Oh my God. Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think I mean, listen, I think there's so much pressure right now in companies for all the reasons we know. I'm sitting in the US. There's a lot of pressure from what's happening with our current administration, what's happening with the government. You take tariffs as an example, right? That have real implications on businesses. Then you have AI, people trying to embrace that and scale and automate things. There's so many things happening that are disrupting work and objectives that I think that I don't want to say now more than ever, but when times are tough and tight, we start to muddle urgent versus important.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I think we've all been guilty of this. So we find with our team, for example, having a prioritization worksheet and working through the Eisenhower matrix or um,
Yeah,
some of the other kind of frameworks that are there really helps also coach
love
the
that.
team through how to do
Oh,
that.
you're missing the dumpster fire emoji. That's amazing. Someone just put a dumpster fire emoji in there. I also just wanted to add, someone put that I actually agree with this a lot. Like ever since Zoom and the pandemic, it's
Mm,
been worse. People think we're superhuman.
yeah.
And I think this is one of the things that is foundational to good leadership. It goes back to, are you getting enough sleep? Are you eating well? Are you taking care of yourself? How can you show up for yourself and others if you are constantly burning the midnight oil? It's just not possible. And listen, even our iPhones need to charge. Like everything needs to charge. So it's just this idea that everything can't be urgent. It's just not possible. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, everything is urgent, so nothing is. So
Yes.
uh, cool. Yeah. So let's move on to another very charming archetype, Medusa.
Oh,
You shared with me that that's the boss that turned you off Chanel fragrances forever. That's
yes.
like trauma. So the Medusa is the boss that leads with fear. And unfortunately, it sounds like 1 in 3 leaders still do that.
Yeah.
So tell us about Medusa.
Yeah. So Medusa wore lots of Chanel, and she also sprayed herself with lots of Chanel. And until this point in my life, I had never had anyone yell or scream at me. Not my parents, not my brother, not my friends, not my husband. And then I enter this team where this woman shouts, yells, throws tantrums like a toddler, publicly humiliates people, berates people. And as I talk about in The Devil Emails at Midnight, as you read, she threw a Chanel shoe at a colleague, which thankfully missed my colleague's head. And you're like, how is this behavior tolerated? And what's really interesting about this archetype is that fear drives short term results. And
Mm,
why I say this is I was scared. I was really scared of her. And so I was scared to be in her wrath. I was scared to be berated, belittled, yelled at. So I did everything to work overtime to try to achieve the things she wanted us to. And then what happens? You get really tired. You
mm,
get tired of being scared of coming to work every day. And then you stop giving a crap because you're like, yeah, whatever I do is she's going to yell at. It goes back to micromanaging, but in a different way, because this happens faster. And what happened to me and others on the team is that you start becoming disengaged. You want to be under the radar because you don't want to be in the path of this bully boss. And then you become less productive and you slowly became disengaged. And that team of 12, I remember that year, we all left. We all left. I could not stay another minute working for her. And she's one of the 3 bosses in my career who had the most impact on my mental health.
mm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense. And just from an organizational standpoint, the cost of this turnover, 12 of you on the team, high performers leaving, that's
And that was the second team she turned over, right? That was the second team she had entirely turned over. And why does this happen? People are wondering. And my theory is that we sometimes protect people we have personal relationships with. If the president had a personal relationship with her and brought her from somewhere else, we also make excuses for people. It's hard to hear things that you don't believe. If someone tells you, well, Mita's hurting and harming others, well, I know Mita. I've known her since we played lacrosse at Stanford. Like, that's not who she is. Like, people are making these things up. So leaders start to see what they want to see and hear what they want to believe. And unfortunately, the data is there, as you all would say at Leapsome, is like, watch for the data and the signs. Like, so many people are leaving, and you're going to let all these people walk out the door to protect that one leader. That to me is what I can never wrap my head around.
yeah, 100%. Definitely running those engagement surveys on a regular basis to take the pulse of the organization really makes
Yeah.
sense to see that. So I think it's time for a third poll now. And it is a true or false statement that you all have to select. Is fear a long-term motivator? True, false, or I don't know?
Is fear a long-term motivator? Mostly, what's 90% false? Yeah, 6%, I don't know, 4% true.
That makes sense. I mean, everyone listened to you, Mita, because you said it's a short-term motivator. It definitely works in the short term because of
I'm so scared. I'm going to work as hard as I can. I laugh because if I don't laugh, I'll cry. I mean, it's nothing funny about it, but otherwise I'll just start crying. It's horrible. It's horrible for anyone who's been in that situation. If you're in that situation now, I'm rooting for you to move on to what you're meant to do next.
100%. Cool. So I think it's time for a very exciting section that we have. All of you, when you registered, had the chance to submit a bad boss moment yourself.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, and we curated a couple of stories that, Mita, I would love for you to react on and help with some hot seat
Sure.
coaching in the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the story for about 40 seconds, and then after this, I'll hand it over to you
Sure.
to react.
Okay.
So our first story, and granted, we had so many submissions, and a lot of them were just like very similar, which actually shows how important this conversation is.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first one is, my manager says he was disappointed I didn't catch a late Sunday chat message, even though I booked Monday off 3 weeks earlier and reminded the team I'd be offline. 6 months later, I'm still fuming. And just a quick tip from my experience, because we're using Leapsome internally. And one way that you could be flagging these absences, for example, when we use our Leapsome HRIS to submit my absence, then that shows up automatically into our meetings agenda, which is another thing that we have where we can track all our agendas and our one-on-ones. So people can see it immediately and know that I'm out of office in a bit. So it's not lost. just like it was for this story. But back to
I
you.
love that tip. That's great. That's awesome that you're able to do that with Lisa.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so the thing I want to also dig in on is this person's fuming 6 months later. So the question is, what else has this manager done? Because here's the thing, to address this 6 months later, I'm not sure if I would do that versus addressing something that happened in the moment. So if that happened in the moment, what you could say is, now watch the language. I understand. I hear that you're disappointed. I don't say I'm sorry. I'm not apologizing. I'm acknowledging that you're saying this. That's the difference. I understand that you're disappointed, and you stick the facts. You state the facts. I had Monday off. I did not see the message. Back to the way our team communicates, if it's something incredibly urgent, you can call my cell, right? If that is something that you have agreed to. It's also Sunday. So again, I go back to, unless you're a 911 operator or you're a firefighter or an emergency room medical professional, what is it that's happening on a Sunday night, right? Unless it's like you're flying to meet a client on Monday and there's last minute notes, but that person wouldn't be there. They were off. So I think it's, again, being a mirror to say, I understand the feedback. I understand what you're saying, and I was off, right? And just very clearly, without emotion, just to state the facts back to that person. And that, when you continue to do that, that helps reinforce the boundaries that you're setting.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And don't apologize for something you shouldn't be apologizing for.
That would be the old me. I would say, I'm so sorry. You're like, no, you're not. I understand. I hear you. Right? You're acknowledging that you're receiving the piece of information. You're not apologizing for not responding on a Sunday night.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. I mean, no one should be expected to, like you said, unless you're in some real life-threatening situation, then.
Yeah. And listen, here's the other thing. There might be times where you're working as a team over the weekend because there is something that is urgent, that is due on a Monday. Then you all know that. I've been in that situation. The issue is that when it happens every weekend, like when you're working 7 days a week nonstop, but there are moments where you're preparing for something and you've been in it. You're working Saturday and Sunday for whatever reason to deliver something that's going live on Monday. But then everyone knows that that's the expectation. It's not the norm, right? It's just for that moment to deliver something.
Yes, it's an exception. And
Yes.
everyone agreed on that.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you. So story number 2. That boggles my mind. My director turned our one-on-ones into vent sessions about my peer managers. When I finally asked if we could keep gossip out of the meetings, she canceled every future one-on-one. So now I've lost my only structured time for feedback and support. This is crazy. And here, I have to do a quick plug-in here for Leapsome, because for Leapsome meetings, it's really great. What you can do is like really keep these meetings outcome focused and agenda focused by tracking all of your different action items, next steps, all of those things. So that way you can avoid all that gossip fest that could ensue instead. And so I find this really keeps me productive and the team as well. But Mita, how would you coach this person upwards to share that feedback?
Yeah, and I love what you just shared, because having a shared agenda objective, having a tool that allows you to do that, then you all know what you're talking about rather than different items coming up. And I talk about this in the Devil Emails at Midnight. One of my bosses, who I nicknamed Gossip Girl, did exactly that. So what I would do in this situation is I would go back to the boss and say, I noticed our one-on-ones were canceled. What's the best way to get them back on the calendar? Is there a day that works better for you? They were on Wednesdays, but if that no longer works, I can do Tuesdays, I can do Thursdays. And so ask it in a very open-ended, again, non-emotional way. We're emotional people. I'm very emotional, but I have my pint of Ben and Jerry's. I wallow in my feelings at home, and then I process them, and then I show up and I'm very fact-based, right? That's the facts, right? Especially if that person's having one-on-ones with everyone else, right? And so you can say and see how they respond to that if you're very fact-based about it.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think a lot of the stuff that you talk about is keeping the emotion out and really focusing on the, what's at hand and stating the facts.
Because then you get the person to self-reflect. It's like almost like you're recording them and you're playing back the video in your words of what you saw. And then when you do that, you get people you're serving as a mirror. This is what happened. This is what I observed. What would you like to do next? Particularly for that one-on-ones, because it's not productive to say, did you cancel the one-on-ones because I told you to stop gossiping? No, this is what we think and we want to say, but
Yeah.
that's not what we want to say. We want to be very direct. We want to be very clear and direct and fact-based. I noticed they fell off the calendar. Is there a better way to get on? And is there a better day for you or time for you that makes sense?
Yeah.
And then, can we use Leapsome? Can we actually have a way to track our agenda and our objectives? That could be a really good way. I started a doc for us, so we have very clear items on what we're talking about every week.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. Keep the emotions out. That's also a message sometimes for me because
Yep.
I tend to get into that sometimes. Cool. Thanks for
These
that.
are these are great scenarios. Wow.
Yeah,
Whew.
lots of good stuff. And actually they overlap, right? Like a lot of people
Yeah.
submit the same issue. So we selected some that really a lot of people submitted to make sure
Yes.
that we're trying to make this as applicable to everyone as possible. Cool. And story number 3, at the company, senior leaders protect their favorites. If you're in the inner circle, your exec defends you no matter what. If you're not, you're the scapegoat. Our new VP is so busy managing her own reputation that she automatically blames our team whenever something slips. Turnover is skyrocketing and everyone's walking on eggshells. And again, a little plug when trust is that low. And I think I mentioned it earlier, anonymous kind of surveys like Leapsome pulse surveys or engagement surveys that you can run really can flag problems across teams and by manager. So you actually know which team is hurting and by which leader these teams are headed. So you can address those things early before turnover happens and you lose all your high performers, like what Mita was saying about Medusa. And so back to you, Mita. What would be
Yeah.
the first step to shift from this fear-based culture into something better?
Yeah. Well, before I respond to that, I forgot to be looking at the chat because we're so engaged in our conversation, and the chat's on fire. People are excited about really good response. And just, anyways, thank you for everyone's engagement in the chat. Wow. Okay. So here's what I've come to realize: you can only change your own behavior. You can't change someone else's. You can act as a mirror. I can't change my husband, brother, mother, boss, right? You can only change yourself. And when you have that realization, it's a real eye opener. And so if you've tried to act like a mirror to this VP and you've said, I noticed that when this proposal didn't go the way we wanted to, or the innovation numbers didn't come as high as expected, this was your response. Is there something we could be doing differently next time? Without blaming her. Again, you're shining a light on the things that she said and done with observation, and then asking, what can I be doing differently? That's one approach. I mean, having studied these types of leaders for a while and being in these types of organizations, and I'm rereading the story, my advice to this person is to start crafting your exit strategy. I don't know how much energy and how much of yourself you want to use in trying to change a situation that may not be in your control. I hate to say this, we know this, hurt people hurt people. They do. It's an overused line, but it's true. If I see one more person get mandated executive coaching, I'm going to scream. This person likely needs therapy. I'm just going to say it, right? There's something going on in their life that they're showing up to work this way. In the case of Medusa, in the case of this boss, like she's so busy managing up because she's insecure. She doesn't know what she's doing. The role's too big for her. All these things, right? Or something has happened in her personal life that she hasn't been dealing well with. And she is just tirading on the team or too busy blaming everyone else. I don't know what you think, but that's sort of where my head is at on this scenario. It's a tough one. I'd love to see, people are typing in the chat too. I'd love to see what others say.
I'd love to see that too, but I cannot. So Vita,
I don't see anyone. Yeah. I don't see, Tanya's typing, Jeremy was typing, all these different people are typing, but yeah, I don't know. What's your reaction to the story? What do you think?
It's really tough when you have that because, like you said, it's very unlikely that something is going to shift or change for that person, despite them reflecting back the facts to the individual. So, like you said, if you want to do something different, then most likely the best scenario is to exit or go to another team. But it sounds like
Internally?
culture
Yeah.
is like
So
that.
Yeah. So sometimes the only solution, exit plan, nailed it. Thank you, Julie. Jeanette is typing. Anyways, um, what's a good exit strategy? We can answer this if we have. Do we have a minute to answer this
Yeah,
question?
yeah, let's
Okay,
do it.
Tanya, what's a good exit strategy in these types of situations when the situation is so difficult with the manager? Okay, so here's the mistake I've made. I've been in this situation before. I thought I could change the boss. I thought I could outwork the boss. I thought I could get the boss to like me. I thought if I worked harder, produced better work, they would change. None of those things were true. We just talked about it. They had to actually self-reflect and think about if they wanted to change. And so I wish earlier I had updated my resume.
Mm,
I wish earlier I had told people what I was looking for next. I wish I had thought about what I was looking for next. I wish I had just started meeting people and networking and asking for help. I wish I had started that earlier, because what can happen in these situations when you're working for a bad boss, you start to feel trapped. You not only start to head toward disengagement and burnout, you start to lose pieces of yourself, right? You
mhm.
start to lose your self-confidence. And then it becomes harder when you're in interviews, right? Because your self-confidence is so low. So, watch for the signs. Where there's smoke, there's fire. I'm not saying everyone should quit tomorrow. That's not a strategy. That doesn't work. But start to think about, like, if I have to work for Mita, God forbid it's Mita, have to work for Mita for the next 4 or 5 months. And this is a situation where she's managing her own reputation. She's throwing everyone under the bus. What am I going to get on my resume? What
Yeah.
are the things that I'm going to get from this moment? What are the initiatives, the projects? Who else can I be working with at the company? How else can I be getting on other assignments? And get what you can, craft the plan, get out, either internally, move to another team, or externally.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. One of the things I do at work regularly is recommit to my job, every week. So
Oh, I love that.
yeah, it's something
Recommit to my job.
yeah,
Wow.
just briefly every week I'm like, okay, outweigh, like, do the pros outweigh the cons, and what is it that I'm grateful for, and what do I love, and then I see where I'm at, and then that's how I roll every week.
Here's some other, I love that. Always be ready. Yes, you never know when you need to burn that bridge. That will light your path forward. Completely resonates with me. Mita. We have this currently, only 2 to 3 are privy in our inner circle. What's happening? Um, yeah, this is great. I'm all for this. If it costs me my peace or mental sanity, it's time to execute an exit plan. And listen, whoever said that, I think it's Scott. The chat is moving really fast, so apologies if I'm not calling people's names out. It's really quite engaging. Always have your resume ready. Always, always, always. Even if you're happy, have it ready, right? Like, have it ready, because even if you're happy internally, a lot of these companies, if you're moving, they want your resume as well, especially if it's a large company, right? There's a lot of politics involved. You're moving from one division to another. Just always have your resume ready. You just never know what will happen next.
You never know. That is absolutely true. Just like our platform or my Chrome crashing, and thankfully we're still on this.
Yeah, no, it's great. You're doing amazing. This is an amazing conversation. Yeah, yeah.
And so I wish I could also see all the chat reactions and engage with those. But Mita, I'm relying on you on those ones.
No, it's great. There's someone else just said, I recently went to several conferences and got ideas that relate to what I do. I'm dusting off the resume. That's an amazing example and inspiration. Having portfolio of work ready along with the CV is also handy. In my case, images referencing past work is important. Awesome. There's such, like, everyone giving great advice. You don't need us. Look, the community helping each other out. Yes, always have your resume ready. Things can change very quickly. A new manager, a new objective, and acquisition. Network, network, network. It takes a village. This is amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing, amazing insights here.
excellent tips. Excellent. So we had a few myths ready for you to debunk.
Oh, yes.
These are really fun. Quick moments for you to just debunk those. So the first one was, great leaders never make mistakes.
Great leaders often make mistakes so they can learn from them. I mean, yeah. Again, am I an AI agent or am I human? Am I a bot?
Not yet.
Not yet. And even the chat GPT makes mistakes. So there we go.
It does, and it apologizes very beautifully also.
Yes.
That's making a mistake. Cool. And then the second one is, urgency equals importance.
Yeah, false. I mean, we just talked about that. If everything is urgent, nothing is urgent. So urgency means something is due tomorrow or eminently. And you think about it this way, if it doesn't happen, there will be a severe consequence. Versus important is it could be important for your long-term planning, but that means you have time to strategize and think about it.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Cool. And then the third one is micromanagement. I love this one. Micromanagement shows you care.
Micromanagement um, shows you don't trust me, right? It's the opposite of care because you don't trust me to do the job you hired me to do. You hired me to do a job. Treat people like adults in the workplace. It seems so simple, but somehow so complicated.
Yeah. And, and sometimes I wonder if that also stems from fear for like how competent you are as well.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think when I talk about it in The Devil Emails at Midnight, we didn't get into all the prompts and the tools, and I know people will get a copy and read it. But it is this idea when you have a loss of control in your life, whether that's personal or professional, you'll seek to control in details that don't matter. I've certainly been there. You're insecure. You're afraid your team's going to outshine you, which is so ridiculous. You know what? When my team shines, I shine, and I'm a good leader, and then more people want to work for me. It's just how it is. We all talk to each other, right? Whether it's internal or external. And so I wish more leaders had that mindset.
Yeah, me too. I definitely try to emulate that. And it works so much better for the team and their
Yeah.
creativity and how they show up to work. It's just amazing that people don't do that. Cool. So, Mita, this is a little bit of a shift because I cannot see any of the questions I was going to
No,
ask.
it's fine. We've got some more. I don't know if I should take the ones in the chat. Oh, there's questions. Should I head to the questions? Let's do
Yeah.
that. Will this recording be shared? Yes, that maybe not that. Yes, there's a bunch of them. All right, let's go through these. I'm actually, before I go through that, I want to go through one that was in the chat, if that's okay.
Yeah, for
Someone
sure.
asked about exit interviews and should we share what we really think during an exit interview?
Mm.
So that's a great question. First of all, do exit interviews even happen? I thought they were canceled. Like, I can't remember the last time I had an exit interview when I left a company. But anyways, exit interviews are really important because they are signs. People will tell you what they think when they're walking out. Should you be honest? If there is something that you're concerned legally with, you should consult an attorney. I always say that if you are afraid of what you might be sharing. And I think share what you're comfortable with in an honest, fact-based manner. I think you have to do context matters, the situation matters. You have to do what you're comfortable with. Can I tell you what I did at a company when I was in HR, one of the heads of HR, and I loved this idea. I worked with legal, and guess what we did? We called people 6 months after they left
Mm.
to do exit interviews again, to check in, because we talk about facts versus feelings. When I leave a job, it's emotional
Mhm.
for good reasons and bad reasons. It's just emotional. And so I might not be in a place to be fact-based, but what I loved was we called people 6 months later and they were willing to talk to us and actually give us really meaningful feedback on why they had left and things that we could action. And so I think that's really important. I don't think bosses should do exit interviews. There are companies that happens. I think it should be handled by someone in HR or someone else who's handling the exit interview. So I think you have to just decide how honest you want to be given the context and what you feel comfortable with. Do you have anything to add?
I would say, I mean, first of all, at Leapsome, we do exit interviews because I think it's such an important thing.
Amazing.
So I think it really depends on the organization and how much they are focused on culture and like what else is going on there. Just like the pulse surveys we talked about or the engagement surveys, like the exit interview is another moment to check on the
Yes.
sentiment.
Yeah.
And so I definitely think if your organization is not doing them, they definitely should, because that's another amazing data point to collect for your future hires and your employer branding and for all of those
Yeah.
aspects. So 100%, I think. You said, Mita, that you thought these were canceled forever. So I hope
I'm glad that Leapsome's leading the way. Are you guys hiring? I'm going to send you my resume.
you do that.
Leapsome, great company to work for. No, seriously. I know companies who do not do exit interviews because they don't want to hear it. They don't believe it. It was really interesting that you just brought up about employer brand. If you don't do exit interviews and you don't take care of people when they're leaving and make them feel like they're being seen and heard. Listen, I could be resigning off your team. I could tell you what I think. You can listen and say thank you and choose not to action it, but at least I feel like I've been heard. People will go to Glassdoor, they will go to Fishbowl,
Mhm.
they will go to LinkedIn, they will go to other places to give the exit interview. They
Yeah.
will tell you what it's really like to work there. So just think about that. Someone had a really lovely comment, which was hold on. The way you two are working through these tech issues is such a show of trust and self-confidence that I believe we hope to see in the workplace. Oh,
Oh, that's so sweet.
really nice. Thank you. My company doesn't have HR. I'm so sorry. Oh God.
Oh, I
Um,
hope someone else is taking at least the task of
yes,
doing
yes.
something.
Let's go to question. Let me go to some more questions. I'm gonna start, I guess, at the top. I'm not sure in what order these came. Actually, let me start at the bottom because I think, yeah, those were people submitted. Um, got any tips on how to set a level of urgency? I got a call on a holiday for something that could have waited till
Oh,
the next work day.
oh,
So here's what, again, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, but I always say context and situation matters. I can't tell you what to do. I don't work there and I'm not in your shoes. What if you hadn't picked up the call on the holiday? I am notorious. I've spent all of my life in corporate America and I've worked on vacation. It's terrible. Like why? Talk about role modeling. And so why did you pick up? Maybe there's an agreement that you would pick up phone calls on the holidays, but it also starts with I can say I've been taken advantage of, but I can also say I didn't set boundaries,
mhm,
right? So
mhm.
then if you picked up the phone call when you're back in the office, it goes back to, again, not that incident, but hey, I'd love to have a conversation as a team on how we communicate and setting up a framework. Can we talk about when something's really urgent? What does that look like? And how are we going to communicate? Are you going to pick up the phone and call me? What if someone's on holiday? If Mita's on holiday, can she have a backup? Can it be Julie? Right? Like this is a moment rather than making that the issue. That is one of many issues when it comes to the urgency. Bring that up to the forefront and then also create a larger framework for the team. Because if that's happening to you, that's probably happening to other people.
Yeah, yeah. I really love that. I really love that because in the end of the day, like it's your holiday, it's your boundary, it's your pay time off. You can have it, but also it's an opportunity to realign the communication styles in the
Yes,
in the team. So
absolutely.
yeah.
Awesome. Okay, a next question for us. How do you deal with cultural sensitive from people? How do you deal with cultural sensitive from people, different backgrounds who are not as vocal as you? So I'm going to process this as meaning, how do you deal with people who have different leadership styles and perhaps process information differently than you? And I think this is really important. And I'd love your thoughts on it, is that, I grew up as more of a shy, introverted leader. And so I often think as I lead teams, I am try to be hyper aware of how people process and receive information. And just because I am not the loudest person in the room doesn't mean I won't have the most impact. And so, how do you handle different leadership styles? I hate to use the labels, but I'll do extrovert versus introvert,
Mm,
right? And so, just because someone is vocal doesn't mean they're not having impact, just because they're not the first to speak, just because they're not the loudest. And so, thinking about that, and particularly as we're working in a global world, different cultures respond to information, and we've been raised differently, right? And
mm,
so for me, like, respect for authority and humility is a key value. I was raised by my proud daughter of Indian immigrant parents, born and raised in the US, but culturally that's something that can be misinterpreted in the workplace. Well, Mina doesn't speak up enough, or she doesn't go to bat enough with the CEO. And you're just sort of like, well, that's hard for me. Like, I've really worked through that. You've hired me for my opinion, but it's the CEO. So I often think about that, right?
mhm.
What are your any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, funny enough, because I also come from a background like I'm born in Bulgaria, Eastern Europe. So women, again, maybe more of a shy culture in some way. So I've had to learn to be more extra. Well, I'm extroverted, but more opinionated and really share. And
Sure.
I, to this day, I think I struggle sometimes, right, when it's like with higher up authority figures
Yeah.
to do that, and that's okay. So for me, it's more about creating the space first, learning on your team who has what style and how do they prefer to be communicated with. One
Yes.
thing that we are doing sometimes is onboarding survey. Like, how do you like to communicate with? How do you like to be rewarded and recognized? And
Yes.
so getting that little readout of the person and just knowing maybe they won't be speaking up in the meeting, but then you can catch them one-on-one and they'll give you their very honest and amazing opinion that could
Yeah.
have this impact. So it's just knowing the people on your team as well and how each of them prefers to be communicated with.
I love that. I love that. How are we on time? We have 5 minutes. So we still have time?
Yeah, I think we can take 2 more questions and then we can close out.
Okay, great. I would love for you to provide the Leap some information as well and the tool that you all use for meetings. This is interesting. How would you address a leader who uses one-on-one meetings to solely track tasks accomplished or ones you are working on? Feedback is often provided when they don't agree with an approach. And so I'll add and then invite you to join in. I think one of the ways you can manage up is to say, you know, I love to have a list of the tasks that I've been working on, but can we also, I'm going to start a column of projects, right? Especially if there's like a meeting agenda, like you were saying earlier, you could actually add that and just say, okay, you want to know what tasks I worked on, but I want to talk about the projects. I want to talk about the projects where I'm making impact. And I'd love to get more specific feedback on that. What really makes me sad is when feedback is only negative or areas of opportunity in the workplace. You don't have to have a title to do this. I believe we should all be giving each other more positive feedback, be generous with it, be detailed with it, right?
Yeah.
Why can't we do that for each other and create that culture?
Yeah, 100%. And I think if you could also agree with your manager, like, here's the framework of what we can discuss in our one-on-one. So it's helpful to you, but it's helpful to me. So it's more like, okay, here is the goals or the KPIs we're working towards or the objectives we want to achieve. And then take it down to the programs or initiatives or tasks, right? So it's connected to something bigger.
Yeah.
So it's not like someone micromanaging you. Did you complete this one pager?
Yes.
But instead, you know, that person feels like they're really driving that impact. So I think, just again, back to your point, Mita, having that open communication of like, what makes sense to, you know, to talk about in our one-on-one. So it's helpful to both parties.
Yes. I love that. Well, on that note, here's our last question. It's about micromanagement. Good way to end how we started. What's the best way to motivate people under you as a manager who are not hitting goals or expectations to avoid micromanaging? Okay. Here's what I like to do. And I included this research in the Devil Emails at Midnight. There's a Harvard University professor who asked this powerful question. What would it take to make you happy at work again? I want you to think about that. It's your idea of recommitting to your job. And so if somebody seems unmotivated, either there's two things happening. They are not skilled to do the job, and that's on you as a manager. You haven't onboarded them, you haven't given them proper training. So there's a skills issue. The other issue might be a motivation issue. They're just not happy there anymore. And so the best way to do this is to take them out to lunch, coffee, get on a Zoom, and just say, I just wanted to check in. Are you still happy working here? Here are the things I'm noticing. What can I be doing to better support you? How can you be happier in terms of the work you're doing? So when you're not hitting your goals, it's either skills or it's motivation. And sometimes the best gift you can give someone is to help them move on to do what they're meant to do next. Because I've been in those situations and I've been that person where I'm not in the right role. And for you to come to me and just have that honest conversation, I'm like, oof, finally, yeah, you're right. This isn't for me. And either I'm going to find something internally or I'm going to move on externally and do great things.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think you summed it up beautifully. I have nothing to add there. So that's perfect. Thank you so much, Mita. I think with a minute to go, I just wanted to thank you for the amazing conversation. I wanted to thank the entire audience. I wish I could have engaged with all of you.
You did amazing.
Seeing a blank screen right now in front of me. That's why I hopefully didn't detract from everyone, but really love how engaging the chat was from what Mita was saying in the questions. And
it's still going. Everyone's thanking you. It's still going.
Lovely conversation. And once again, I think we should have more of these, right? These are the important.
Please have me come back. I would love to share the stage with you again. Here's the book. First of all, I want to thank you for for sharing the stage. Just a moment of gratitude for being so gracious, kind, the entire team, Leapsome, everything you do to make our world of work a better place. And the audience was just so engaging. And I hope you'll have me come back. And thank you so much. This was amazing.
Thank you so much. We'll definitely have you back. And thank you, everyone. Once again, you'll get a follow-up with a recording. And also you'll get a follow-up with whether you're a winner of one of the 200 books we'll be giving away. Thank you, Mita, for that. Yeah, the SHRM codes will be coming your way as well. So thank you, everyone, and have an amazing, amazing week.